Think Progress posted some questions that they think should be asked at the GOP debate tonight, and I want to give you some of those and then give you a few of my own as well. So first of all, they say, many of you predicted that Obamacare would have a devastating impact on the American job market and continue to refer to Obamacare as a job killer. How do you explain the historic growth under Obamacare? Now, a lot of these questions you're probably going to say, and you're going to think, well, these are gotcha questions, so clearly they're not going to be asked. Well, it's true that they're not going to be asked, but they're only gotcha questions if you have gotcha beliefs. So the same way that when Sarah Palin was asked, what newspapers do you read? And her response was, the same way that was a gotcha question for her, because she doesn't read newspapers and she couldn't name any. That's the same way in which these are gotcha questions. I mean, the reality is you can't say Obamacare killed jobs because it did not kill jobs. So when somebody asks you, hey, you said that and here are the facts, that's not an unfair question. In fact, that's a perfectly fair question. That's a question that should be asked. So that was one of their questions. Here's another one that they put forth. Do you support paid maternity leave? Straightforward, simple. You know that they don't support it, but you're putting them in a position where they have to answer to the American people, because on issues like this, and to be clear, I don't know what the exact number is for maternity leave, but on many issues, the Republicans are simply against the majority of the American people. So when you ask them questions about their beliefs on said issues, you put them in a position where they don't know what the fuck to do. They're like, obviously I'm against it, but I think a majority of people might be for it, so let me go into standard politician mode and bullshit and tiptoe around the issue, something that they're almost all guaranteed to do with multiple questions. The third question they ask is, there's no guns allowed in the arena tonight. Do you support that policy? Fucking genius. I wish I came up with that. That's so brilliant. Because it's true. What do they say all the time? More guns, more peace. They get angry whenever private restaurants, for example, or just businesses in general say, well, we have a no-gun policy. A lot of the Republican base even thinks that that violates the Second Amendment. I mean, it doesn't. Let's be clear about that. Private businesses can make whatever decisions they want when it comes to guns in their restaurant or whatever kind of business it is. But it puts you in a great position, again, because the common sense thing is, no, I don't want people in the audience to be packing heat while I'm up here trying to talk about abortion. But you're conflicting with what the party line usually is, where people say guns everywhere is better. So it's a perfectly fair question, and I'd love to watch them squirm while trying to answer it. Then they say, what lessons have you drawn from the disastrous consequences of the Iraq War, and how does that impact your view on the Iran deal? They certainly wouldn't be able to answer that one. You have said you admire Ronald Reagan, but Reagan granted legal status to millions of undocumented immigrants. Why is your approach so different than Reagan's? If only we had a media that would do a good job and would ask these tough and fair questions. But of course, we don't have that media, and this debate is being hosted by Fox News. So the most difficult question that will likely be put forth is, what's your favorite color? All right, next they say, many of you attended a recent gathering by the Koch brothers who say they are opposed to corporate welfare. Would you commit to eliminating all government subsidies and tax breaks to the fossil fuel industry as president? Oh. Precious. Just a precious question. 80% of Americans want the minimum wage raised. Would you fight for a minimum wage hike? Now, that one was not a Think Progress one. That's one I came up with. But again, I think it's a totally fair question because those guys are clearly against a minimum wage increase, but an overwhelming majority of the American people are for it. So put them on the spot. Say, I want you on the record right now. 80% of the American people are for it. Are you for it? And not only that, will you fight for it as president? Again, just wait for the responses. It'll go something like this. Nothing for you. The Obama administration took the deficit from $1.4 trillion to $480 billion, more than cut it in half. Will you unequivocally give him credit for this right now and say, job well done? That's another one of my questions. I'd love to see them squirm there. I'll give you two more. Under the Obama administration, there's been 64 straight months of private sector job growth, 12 million private sector jobs created. The public sector has cut hundreds of thousands of jobs, and the stock market has more than doubled. What part of the Obama economy do you dislike, and what will you do to fix those problems? Now, that one's not even nearly as much of a gotcha question as the other ones, because there are answers to that, and I've given you them on this show. The reality is that a lot of these jobs that have been created are low-wage jobs, and income inequality is continuing to grow. You have the recovery has largely gone to the rich. So these are real answers. Now, what I gave you here, these are also facts that the Obama economy is much better than the Bush economy, but that doesn't mean there aren't still fundamental systemic problems with the economy. So you're asking a very tough, very fair question, and I guarantee you that the majority of the people on stage would not know how to answer that. They would probably just contest the facts. And they would say, oh, he's destroyed the private sector. But I just told you there's been over 12 million private sector jobs created. Well, he's grown government tremendously. No, I just told you he cut hundreds of thousands of public jobs. That's government jobs. He's cut the public sector. Well, the stock market's taken a big hit. No, the stock market's more than doubled since he took office. What part of the Obama economy don't you like? Yet again, nothing. And finally, over 50% of the discretionary budget goes to military spending and policing the world. How do you square your belief in small government with your belief in continuing this exorbitant spending? We'll give you one more for good measure here. All these questions are tough. All these questions are fair. None of them will be asked. But I'm still going to watch the debate anyway because, even when they're getting the softball questions, which they will get, they're still not going to be able to answer those.